guys, welcome back to my channel. So, I wanted to kind of go through my Goodreads shelf. Not the whole thing, just like the books that I added for this month, since I won't really be able to do any book hauls. So I figured I would kind of tell you what I put on my shelf each month. And, the list is kind of long so far, which is why I'm not doing it at the end of the month, like I hopefully will next month. Maybe I'll add another handful at the end of the month, but we'll see. But I want to do it now because some of them are about to come through on hold from the library, and so I want to react to the descriptions before I read them. So I'm going to maybe read some of the descriptions, but not all of them. It really depends on the book, if I can describe it well enough without reading the whole thing, because otherwise this would be an hour long. There are 16 books. Don't judge me. Okay, judge me. At least I don't have physical books, because if I did, I would have to buy a house for them. Anyway. Okay, so I'm going to start with the books that have been out for a while, and then I'll go to the new releases or like the books that just came out this month. So, the first book I have is called Christmas by the Book by Anne Marie Ryan. I actually got this one through an Audible suggestion because I think it was called the Christmas Bookshop or something, and I got it, you know, Audible says if you like this, you'll like that. And I looked at the description and it sounded really good. So, in small-town England, two booksellers facing tough times decide to spread some Christmas cheer through the magic of anonymous book deliveries in this uplifting holiday tale for book lovers everywhere. Nora and her husband Simon have run the beautiful oak-beamed bookshop in their small British village for 30 years. But times are tough and the shop is under threat of closure. This Christmas season will really decide their fate. When an elderly man visits the store and buys the one book they've never been able to sell, saying it's the perfect gift for his sick grandson, it gives Nora an idea. She and Simon will send out books to those feeling down this Christmas. Maybe they can't save their bookstore, but at least they'll have one final chance to lift people's spirits through the power of reading. So yeah, I will read holiday sap any time of year, but especially during winter, even if it is just after Christmas. I'm definitely going to read this book soon. It sounds really good. And it's been out for a while, so there's that one. The next one is called In a Book Club Far Away by Tiff Marcello. I got this one through Sarah's Nightstand. She's a booktuber. I'll make sure to link the booktubers that I get recommendations from in the description. I just learned how to do that. That's actually part of the reason why I finally was able to do this video, because I was waiting to be able to do that. Anyway, here's a description for this one. Regina Castro, Adelaide Wilson Chang, and Sophie Walden used to be best friends. As army wives at Fort East, they bonded during their book club and soon became inseparable. But when an unimaginable betrayal happened among the group, the friendship abruptly ended, and they haven't spoken since. That's why 8 years later, Regina and Sophie are shocked when they get a call for help from Adelaide. Adelaide's husband is stationed abroad, and without any friends or family near her new home of Alexandria, Virginia, she has no one to help take care of her young daughter when she has to undergo emergency surgery. For the sake of an innocent child, Regina and Sophie reluctantly put their differences aside to help an old friend. As the three women reunite, they must overcome past hurts and see if there's any future for their friendship. Yeah, book club, complicated friendships, kid in trouble, totally my jam. So thank you, Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand. I just got this one. Next is A Mother's Promise by K.D. Alden. I cannot remember who recommended this one, so I am very sorry. I think it was Amanda from the Curly Reader, but I could be wrong. But this one sounds interesting. It's historical fiction. Based on the true story behind a landmark U.S. Supreme Court decision, K.D. Alden's debut is a rich and moving story of one woman's courage and strength at a pivotal point in America's history. Virginia, 1927. A chance to have a family. That's all Ruth Ann Riley wants. But because she was unwed and pregnant, she was sent away and her baby given to another woman. Now they're trying to take Ruth Ann's right to have another child. But she can't stand the thought of never seeing little Annabelle's face again, never snuggling up to her warmth or watching her blue eyes crinkle with laughter. Good thing she has a plan. All the rich and fancy folks may call her feeble-minded, but Ruth Ann is smarter than any of them have bargained for, because no matter how high the odds are stacked against her, she is going to overcome the scandals in her past and get her child back. And along the way, she just may find unexpected friendships and the possibility of love in the most unlikely of places. Yep, this is totally something I would read. I love a good custody battle, and I mean, I guess this isn't completely a custody battle, since the kid sounds like it was adopted. She was adopted. But, yeah, it still sounds interesting. Especially because it took place in the 20s. Anyway, I just got that one as well. Couldn't resist. Probably going to read that one this month. The next one is a Little Women retelling. I found it through the Currently Reading Bookish Friends Facebook group. Currently Reading is a book podcast, and I'm a member of their Patreon, and so you can be part of their Facebook group. So, here's the description for this one. A reimagining set in the spring of 1942, when the United States is suddenly embroiled in the Second World War. The story, told from each March sister point of view, is one of grief, love, and self-discovery. In the spring of 1942, the United States is reeling from the attack on Pearl Harbor. While the U.S. starts sending troops to the front, the March family of Concord, Massachusetts, grieves their own enormous loss, the death of their daughter Beth. Under the strain of their grief, Beth's remaining sisters fracture, each going their own way, with Jo nursing her wounds and building planes in Boston, Meg holding down the home front with Marmee, and Amy living a secret life as a Red Cross volunteer in London, the same city where one Mr. Theodore Lawrence is stationed as an army pilot. Each March sister's point of view is written by a separate author, 3 in prose and Bess in verse, still holding the family together from beyond the grave. Woven together, these threads tell the story of finding one's way in a world undergoing catastrophic change. Yikes. So, Little Women taking place in World War II. That sounds different. I'm trying to collect all the Little Women retellings. I love Little Women, but I like the modern retellings too. So, or retellings that takes place in different times. It's interesting. Anyway, there's that one. Next is All the Broken Places by John Boyne. I got this one through the Sarah's Bookshelves Live podcast. This is apparently a sequel to The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. I did not read this book. I'm planning on doing that, but I did watch the movie, so if I happen to get the hold from the library before, apparently it's fine to read the sequel without reading the first one. It tells you what you need to know. But I'm a completist, so I'll probably read the first one first, even though I kind of already know the story from the movie. Anyway, 91-year-old Gretel Fernsby has lived in the same well-to-do mansion block in London for decades. She lives a quiet, comfortable life despite her deeply disturbing dark past. She doesn't talk about her escape from Nazi Germany at age 12. She doesn't talk about the grim post-war years in France with her mother. Most of all, she doesn't talk about her father, who was the commandant of one of the Reich's most notorious extermination camps. Then a new family moves into the apartment below her. In spite of herself, Gretel can't help but begin a friendship with the little boy Henry, though his presence brings back memories she would rather forget. One night, she witnesses a disturbing, violent argument between Henry's beautiful mother and his arrogant father, one that threatens Gretel's hard-won, self-contained existence. Yeah, that's wild. Considering I know how the first book ends. Should be very interesting. The next book I have here is The Lost Girls of Willowbrook by Ellen Marie Wiseman. Honestly, this was recommended to me by a myriad of YouTubers. I couldn't really link one. It was a book that everybody was reading back in November for Historathon. Basically, it's like a reading all historical fiction in November. And basically, from what I've heard everybody talk about it, I'm not going to read the description because this is getting long, but briefly, it sounds like it's about twin sisters. One of them thinks her sister died, only to find out 6 years later that she was sent to some sort of institution for, I guess, some like psychiatric issues or something. But, you know, the institutions of the, you know, early 90s weren't great. And so it sounds like Sage, the twin, goes to find her sister Rosemary, and because they're identical twins, they mistake Sage for Rosemary and bring her inside because, well, the reason that Sage finds out that Rosemary's not dead is because they notify her stepfather that she's missing. So Sage goes to find Rosemary, and yeah, they mistake her for Rosemary, and we get to see the inside of this Willowbrook school. Yeah, doesn't sound like it's going to be a fun read, but definitely intrigued by it. So there's that one. I'll try to do better with describing books in the future. Now for the most recent releases or books that are not released yet. The first one is The Lost Year, a survival story of the Ukrainian famine by Catherine Marsh. This one was released on January 17th. I'm currently on hold at the library for it. And apparently I have to wait 18 weeks. That doesn't sound fun. A middle grade survival story that traces a family secret back to Holodomor, a terrible famine that devastated Soviet Ukraine in the 1930s. 13-year-old Matthew is miserable. His journalist dad is stuck overseas indefinitely, and his mom has moved in his 100-year-old great-grandmother to ride out the pandemic, adding to his stress and isolation. But when Matthew finds a tattered black and white photo in his great-grandmother's belongings, he discovers a clue to a hidden chapter of her past, one that will lead to a light-shattering family secret. Set in alternating timelines that connect the present day to the 1930s and the U.S. to the USSR, Catherine Marsh's latest novel sheds fresh light on the Holodomor, the horrific famine that killed millions of Ukrainians and which the Soviet government covered up for decades. Yeah, this sounds really interesting, and I'm upset that I have to wait this long. I love historical fiction, and I love, like, past and present timelines and family secrets, and this is my kind of book. So is this next one that I also have to wait for. Beyond That, the Sea by Laura Spence Ash. This is going to be released on March 21st, and I'm very upset about it. And this one is apparently about a girl whose parents basically evacuate her to the U.S. from London during World War II, and basically how she adjusts to her new family, and then how she has to readjust when the war is over. Sounds like the long and short of it. You know, she gets attached to this new family she lives with because she's been living with them for 6 years. We're talking from age 11 to like 17 or 18. So half her childhood. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see like her kind of decide where she belongs between these two families. So yeah, this is also completely my kind of thing. And I'm very sad I have to wait all this time to read it. The next one is called All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. This was recommended by the Book Talk, Etc. podcast. It was released on January 10th. I am also currently on hold for this one. Thankfully, this hold is not as long. I think it's like a month and a half. 1 year ago, Isabel Drake's life changed forever. Her toddler son Mason was taken out of his crib in the middle of the night while she and her husband were asleep in the next room. With little evidence and few leads for the police to chase, the case quickly went cold. However, Isabel cannot rest until Mason is returned to her, literally. Except for the occasional catnap or small blackout where she loses track of time, she hasn't slept in a year. Isabel's entire existence now revolves around finding him, but she knows she can't go on this way forever. In hopes of drawing loose a new witness or buried clue, she agrees to be interviewed by a true crime podcaster, but his interest in Isabel's past makes her nervous. His incessant questioning, paired with her severe insomnia, has brought up uncomfortable memories from her own childhood, making Isabel start to doubt her recollection of the night of Mason's disappearance, as well as second-guessing who she can trust, including herself. But she is determined to figure out the truth no matter where it leads. Yep. Kidnap, and, aren't they kind of hinting in that description that she could have been the kidnapper and she doesn't remember? I need to know more about this. And I need the people ahead of me in the hold line to hurry up and read this book so I can read it next. Anyway, the next one is Small World by Laura Zigman, also recommended by Book Talk, Etc. podcast, also released on January 10th. And I actually just got this book today from the library. My hold came through very quickly. So I'm very excited. Here's a description. A year after her divorce, Joyce is settling into being single again. She likes her job archiving family photos and videos, and she's developed a secret, comforting hobby, trolling the neighborhood social networking site. Small world for posts that help solve life's easiest problems. When her older sister Lydia, also divorced, calls to tell her she's moving back east from Los Angeles after almost 30 years away, Joyce invites Lydia to move into her Cambridge apartment, temporarily, just until she finds a place of her own. But their unlikely cohabitation, not helped by annoying new neighbors upstairs, turns out to be the post-divorce rebound relationship Joyce hadn't planned on. Instead of forging the bond she always dreamed of having with Lydia, their relationship frays. And they rarely discuss the loss of their sister Eleanor, who was significantly disabled and died when she was only 10 years old. When new revelations from their family's history come to light, will those secrets further split them apart or course correct their connection for the future? Yeah, this sounds really interesting. Dysfunctional family, and it sounds like these two sisters fight a lot, so this could be fun too. So I'm probably going to read that pretty soon, as I just got it today. Next we have, I'm not sure if I'm going to like this because I'm not really into fantasy, but I'm going to give it a try because I got it from a trusted source. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This is recommended by the Currently Reading podcast, their Patreon episode for the Indie Press List. Basically, they have what's called the Indie Press List every month. Every month, they sponsor a different bookstore. The bookstore will recommend 5 books, and the podcasters will talk about them, and then we buy them from that bookstore, and that's how they make money. Pretty good deal. So I chose this one. I got it through Libro FM on audio. Anyway, it was released January 10th. A curmudgeonly professor journeys to a small town in the far north to study fairy folklore and discovers dark fae magic, friendship, and love in this heartwarming and enchanting fantasy. Cambridge professor Emily Wilde is good at many things. She is the foremost expert on the study of fairies. She is a genius scholar and a meticulous researcher who is writing the world's first encyclopedia of fairy lore. But Emily Wilde is not good at people. She could never make small talk at a party or even get invited to one, and she prefers the company of her books. Her dog, Shadow, and the fair folk to other people. So when she arrives in the Hardscrabble village of, I can't pronounce it, Hrafnsvik, Hrafnsvik. You try it. Emily has no intention of befriending the gruff townsfolk, nor does she care to spend time with another new arrival. Her dashing and insufferable handsome academic rival, Wendell Bambleby, who manages to charm the townsfolk, get in the middle of Emily's research, and utterly confound and frustrate her. But as Emily gets closer and closer to uncovering the secrets of the Hidden Ones, the most elusive of all fairies, lurking in the shadowy forest outside the town, she also finds herself on the trail of another mystery. Who is Wendell Bambleby, and what does he really want? To find the answer, she'll have to unlock the greatest mystery of all, her own heart. I'm interested in the fairy part, not so much in the romance part. I don't really like insufferable guys. Even if they do redeem themselves, generally I hate you from beginning to end if you're insufferable. On a book. Mean enemies to lovers, not fans. But again, trusted sources, so I'm going to try. Next we have Time's Undoing by Cheryl A. Head, recommended by Sarah's Bookshelves Live podcast. This will be out February 28th. Now this is more my thing. Historical fiction. Birmingham, 1929. Robert Lee Harrington, a master carpenter, has just moved to Alabama to pursue a job opportunity, bringing along his pregnant wife and young daughter. Birmingham is in its heyday, known as the Magic City for its booming steel industry. And while Robert and his family find much to enjoy in the city's busy markets and vibrant nightlife, it's also a stronghold for the Klan. And with his beautiful, light-skinned wife and snazzy car, Robert begins to worry that he might be drawing the wrong kind of attention. 2019. Megan McKenzie, the youngest reporter at the Detroit Free Press, has grown up hearing family lore about her great-grandfather's murder, but no one knows the full story of what really happened back then, and his body was never found. Determined to find answers to her family's long-buried tragedy and spurred by the urgency of the Black Lives Matter movement, Megan travels to Birmingham. But as her investigation begins to uncover dark secrets that spider across both the city and time, her life may be in danger. Inspired by true events, Time's Undoing is both a passionate tale of one woman's quest for the truth behind the racially motivated trauma that has haunted her family for generations, and as newfound friends and supporters in Birmingham rally around Megan's search, the uplifting story of a community coming together to fight for change. I cannot wait for this to come out. This sounds really interesting and sad. But, dual timeline, family secrets, historical fiction, that'll always be my thing. Oh well, I have to wait another month. Next is another one I'm not so sure about. The Sweet Spot by Amy Papel, released January 31st, recommended by Amanda from the Curly Reader. Basically, it sounds like it's about these three women who somehow end up with a baby that's not one of theirs, and none of them are friends. I read the description, but it sounds very spoilery, so I don't want to read it. But it sounds very comedic. Very similar to Finley Donovan is Killing It, kind of. I don't know. But I don't think I'm going to read the description for this one. It is way too spoilery. I already know too much. So, we'll go on to the next one. This one, again, I am also not sure about, and I'm going to get it pretty soon from the library. It's at Available Soon. Owner of a Lonely Heart by Eva Carter, released January 17th. Also recommended by Amanda from the Curly Reader. Gemma thought she had her future all mapped out. She had a wonderful husband, a cute apartment, and plans to start a family. But just months after their wedding, illness took her husband from her. And now she finds herself trying to think up new dreams when all she really wants are her old ones back. Across town, Dan's also rethinking his life. He's about to meet his 12-year-old daughter, Casey, for the very first time. She's tracked him down because she needs a place to stay for the summer while she receives treatment for a brain tumor at the city hospital. And Dan is terrified he won't be up to the task of taking care of her. After all, he's structured his entire life so that no one has to rely on him. But when fate, with the help of Gemma's scruffy terrier, Bear, brings these three strangers together one scorching July morning, there's an instant connection among them. And it soon becomes clear that this summer could change everything, if only they'll let it. Okay. The reason I'm not sure about this is the guy. Why are you meeting your 12-year-old for the first time? And why is she calling you, if she's never met you, to nurse her back to health when she has a brain tumor? Where is her mother? Has she been in foster care? Are you a deadbeat dad? And if you are, I don't want you to live happily ever after. I'm sorry, but I don't. If that makes you a bad person, well, then I'm a bad person. But I don't want a dad who has ditched his kid for 12 years to get a happily ever after. So I kind of already hate him just from the description. But I'm still intrigued enough to read it. This could be a hate read. Anyway, enough of my ranting. Next we have Iceberg by Jennifer A. Nielsen. This is released March 7th, also recommended from Amanda from the Curly Reader. She is one of my best sources, apparently. And this one is it's a middle grade book. It's about a girl who stows away on the Titanic, and, well, we know what happened to the Titanic. So, yeah. I'm very interested in that one. And I have to wait. So, there's that. Then we have, I think this is my last one, Homecoming by Kate Morton, released April 4th. I got this one through the What Should I Read Next podcast, Patreon. They had like their spring preview where they talk about the books that are coming out in the spring. I only sign up for their Patreon to get the previews because they have really good previews. So that was one of those previews. Okay, so I'm going to read the description for this one because it sounds interesting.
Low battery.
Oops, sorry about that.
20, close. Button. Stop recording video. 27 minutes, 50 seconds.
Stop talking. That's my phone, which is what I record on. Adelaide Hills, Christmas Eve, 1959. At the end of a scorching hot day beside a creek on the grounds of the grand and mysterious mansion, a local delivery man makes a terrible discovery. A police investigation is called, and the small town of Tambilla becomes embroiled in one of the most shocking and perplexing murder cases in the history of South Australia. 60 years later, Jess is a journalist in search of a story. Having lived and worked in London for almost 20 years, she now finds herself laid off from her full-time job and struggling to make ends meet. A phone call out of nowhere summons her back to Sydney, where her beloved grandma Nora, who raised Jess when her mother could not, has suffered a fall and been raced to the hospital. Nora has always been a vibrant and strong presence, decisive, encouraging, young despite her years. When Jess visits her in the hospital, she is alarmed to find her grandmother frail and confused. It's even more alarming to hear from Nora's housekeeper that Nora had been distracted in the weeks before her accident and had fallen on the steps to the attic, the one place Jess was forbidden from playing in when she was small. At loose ends in Nora's house, Jess does some digging of her own. In Nora's bedroom, she discovers a true crime book chronicling the police investigation into a long-buried tragedy, the Turner family tragedy of Christmas Eve 1959. It is only when Jess skims through the book that she finds a shocking connection between her own family and this once infamous crime, a crime that has never been resolved satisfactorily. And for a journalist without a story, a cold case might be the best distraction she could find. Yep. Murder mystery, family secrets. I'm very interested. I've actually only read one Kate Morton book. I have most of them through Audible, and I need to read them before I start complaining that I have to wait until April to read this one. I read The Forgotten Garden. It was really good. But yeah, I need to read the other ones. And this sort of gave me the push to do it. So yeah, those are all the books that I have added to my Goodreads in January so far. If I have any more, well, you know, I probably will have more by the end of January, but, you know, if it's a decent number that I could do a video on, I'll do that. If not, I'll do another one of these at the end of February. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!
Viewfinder. Stop recording video.